Hi, and thanks for joining us in this next of a series of videos on the 2D frame analysis module in the Structural Engineering Library. In this video, we'll demonstrate how to define and assign materials and sections to the members of the model. If you're just joining us for the first time, the model that we're working on here is a single bay braced frame model. And we are up to the point now where we're ready to start making material and section assignments. So what we'll do is we'll move to the Sections and Materials tab, and I'm going to actually move to the Material Data tab. There's some flexibility in the workflow process here, but what we'll see is that there's a series of cascading relationships that happen where we will relate a material to a section and then relate a section to a member in the model. So I like to think of it in that sense, and I like to start at the top of the chain and make certain that I have the materials that I need defined in order to make those assignments. So I'll click the Add Material button. And what I'm going to do at this point is create one material for my beams and columns, which will be a grade 50 steel. So I'm going to call this steel 50. That'll help me to distinguish it from the other steel material that'll be for my braces, which will be a grade 46 for my HSS sections. So I'll click OK. And then I can come over to the elastic modulus and I can key in 29,000 KSI. I can key in 0.49 kips per cubic foot, 490 pounds per cubic foot. I can key in 50 KSI, and I don't intend to use any thermal loads, so I'm just going to leave the thermal coefficient at its default. Then I'll click the Add Material button again, and I'll name this one Steel 46 and click OK. And then click in the elastic modulus field. It's still 29,000 KSI for the elastic modulus. The unit weight is still 0.49 kips per cubic foot. And the yield stress in this case will be 46 KSI. Now what I'll do is move to the Section Data tab, and here what I'll do is click the Add Section button. The Add Section dialog opens, and it allows me to relate to the steel database or the wood database, or I could create a user-defined section if I wanted to. In this example, it's a steel braced frame, so what I'd like to do is use the steel lookup button to open the steel section database. I'll use the AISC 13th edition database, and what I have envisioned is that I'll use columns that are wide flanges, so I'll click the W section, and I'm assuming that they'll be W10 by 49s. So I'll scroll down to the W10 by 49, choose that section, and then click Select, and then say OK. That adds the W10 by 49 section to my view. The next thing that I have is a group name option. And if I click on that, what I can do for convenience here is use a name to define the group, the set of members that will use this section. This is particularly convenient in a situation where we have many members, say for instance webs of a truss, where there could be a host of web members out there. It becomes a real convenient way to quickly change all of the sections that relate to this particular group. So for our example, to demonstrate how this can be used, I'll just name this columns as the group. The next category is material, and if I click in that, I'm offered a lookup button. I can then click that lookup button, and notice that now we start to see this cascading series of relationships or references. It relates back to the materials that we defined in the previous step, and this is why I like to do things in that order, so that the materials are ready for me when I get to the stage of relating a material to a section. So we'll obviously want to use the steel 50 material, the grade 50 steel for a W10 by 49, so we'll leave that one selected and then click the select button, and there is the reference to that material. From here over, we have some section data indicated for us based on the chosen section, and then the table called members using section will start to populate itself once we actually make some references to this particular section, and we'll see that shortly. Next, what I'll do is click Add Section again. Again, this will be a steel section, so I'll use the steel tab and I'll come over to the steel lookup button. And now what I'll do is add the section that I want to use for the beam in this frame. I'm going to assume that that's a W18 by 55. So I'll scroll down through and find the W18 by 55 and select it. And then I'll choose the select button. There it is, populated as the section label, so I can say OK. Now what I need to do is change the group name to beam. I could give that any name that I wanted to, but beam makes sense because that's the physical meaning of the member that will receive this section in our model. It was already set to steel 50, so I don't really need to do anything there, but just wanted to show that we could change that if need be. The last section that I need to add is still a steel section, still from the 13th edition, but in this case it'll be an HSS from the square category, and the one that I have in mind is the 6x6 by 3/8. So there's the HSS 6x6 by 3/8, and I'll click Select. There it is as the section label, and I just confirm with OK. Then I can choose the group name, and we'll revise this to braces. I'll click in the material category, choose the lookup button, and revise the material assignment to the steel 46, which is the one that uses the 46 KSI yield strength, and click Select. And that's all that we need to do on the Section Data tab. The last stage of the process is to come back to the Members and Loads tab. We'll be on the Member Data tab, and now what we need to do is work with the section name column so that we can relate the appropriate sections to the particular members in the model. Now if we have to, we can come back to the sketch and refresh our memory by seeing that members A and C are the columns in our model, member B is the beam, and the remaining two members, D and E, are the braces. So I can return to the Members and Loads tab, Member Data sub-tab, and for member A, I just click in the section name category and then click on the lookup button and choose the W10 by 49, which is the one that refers to the column group. Now what I have is a decision. I can either choose to relate the W10 by 49 section name or section label to the member A, or I can choose to relate the group name to member A. Depending on what we want to do, one or the other may be more logical. In this case, what I'll do is relate the group name to section A so that if I need to, I can quickly just go back in and change the section label and get a lot of members with just one single change. Okay, so there we see the group name show up as columns, so it will receive whatever section is assigned to the group named columns. And then we'd like to do the same thing for the other column, which we found to be member C. So I can choose this item, which corresponds to the same group, and then say select group name, and now we'll see that member C has received the group assignment of columns. Let's just jump back up to member B, our beam, and say lookup. I can choose the correct section for the beams, and here it really doesn't make much difference whether I relate it to the section or relate it to the group, because there is only one of them, and so if a change needed to be made, it's as easy to change the section as it is to change the group. But just so that we can see a difference, I'll choose the option to select the section label here, and now we see that instead of the word beams, we see W18 by 55. So just a couple different ways of doing things there. I'll jump down to member D and say lookup. That one wants to be one of the braces, so I'll choose to select the group name so that we see that that's of the braces group. And then member E, the same thing. Lookup, select the braces, choose the group name, and now we've related all 5 members of this model to either a steel section or to a group name that has a direct reference to a particular steel section. Now, if I choose any one of these items in the list, we can see that this table over on the right-hand side is now populated, so we can see that the members that use the section associated with the group name braces are D and E with starting and ending endpoints of such and such. And likewise for the W10 by 49 associated with the columns and the W18 by 55 that's associated with the beams. So to summarize, what we did was we started on the Sections and Materials tab, Material Data subtab, and defined the materials that we knew that we would need. Then we moved to the Section Data tab and selected the sections that we needed, and very importantly, we related a material to those sections. Don't fall into the trap of assuming that because you've selected a section from a steel database that it will automatically be assumed to be material steel, for 2 main reasons. First, because it's always possible that that section is fabricated out of aluminum or fiber reinforced plastic. Second, because you saw in this example that even when you select a steel section, that's not enough to specifically define the steel material, because we had a need in this example to distinguish between grade 46 and grade 50 steel. So up to this point we had defined our materials, we had selected the sections, and we had related them on this tab. Then we came back to the Members and Loads tab, Member Data subtab, and we related a section or a group name with its material relationship already intact to each of the members that were in this model. So our next step will be to take a look at how we can assign loads to the model, and we'll tackle that in the series of videos. Thanks very much and have a great day.